Welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Amen.
So I had mentioned that these laws essentially are in the context of what the Canaanites had done. The Canaanites who the Israelites were going to conquer. And in fact, there are verses elsewhere which, as I was reviewing the material for the Parsha, are very clear about these things are what the Canaanites are doing, and that God does not want us to behave in these particular ways. So, for whatever it's worth, right? Okay. So going on here, Ve'ish asher yishkav et isha dava. So this is a case of a man who is intimate, literally lies with a woman. Dava, essentially that means when she is menstruating. V'gila et ervata, and he reveals her nakedness. Et mekora he'era. So this is the source, and he'era, I think, is related to the word erva, right? Lauren, do you have anything handy there that you're looking at?
Yes, but it appears not to be a direct translation.
Okay, maybe it's uncomfortable with doing that.
Oh,
Okay,
I don't mind reading it
uh,
if you want me
yeah,
to.
sure we can for the sake of the fact that it's there.
Regarding a man who lies with a woman who is undergoing a menstrual flow, you see
Yeah,
they added that, he
yes,
has thereby uncovered her nakedness, since
yeah.
he has uncovered her fountain of blood, and
Hmm.
she has uncovered the fountain of her blood. Both of them will be cut off from amid their people.
Right. So what I'm looking at is, it mikora he'era. So this is where she, right? She has revealed her makor. We know that makor basically means source, okay? Interestingly, this is the Aramaic here, right? Klana. And I'm not sure exactly. I'd have to look up what the word kalan means. I know that very often it has some relation, something to do with disgrace, shame, something like that, right? So this is the way it does say, and vehi galta. Okay, he'era though would be masculine, right? So he has revealed, right? So it related to her at the source of her nakedness. Vehi gilta et makor dameha. This is what it means, right? So, and she has revealed the source of her blood. V'nichritu shnehem, and the two of them will be cut off mikerev amam, from the midst of their people. So it's interesting. I mean, this language is very interesting too. The idea of the sense this all sort of goes back to that story of the tree of knowledge of good and evil and that kind of thing. And also the deepest mystery of procreation, right? And how it's this, in a sense, it's both something that is the most fabulous thing. It's miraculous. It's a source of life, but it also is a source of deep shame. And it's like it's a very private kind of thing. And that needs to be something that's done in darkness and in privacy and things like that. And I really like the connection between these passages and the fact that Acharei Mot starts off with the high priest has to prepare himself in so many ways in order to enter the Holy of Holies, and that in a sense there's I would say a literary parallel between this act of intimacy where the high priest is going into an intimate association with the divine, and on a human level, the act of intimacy between two human beings. That it's something that's a very sacred kind of thing, and needs to be, at least from the Jewish perspective, needs to be treated as such. So I think it's not a coincidence that we have those two Torah readings on Yom Kippur, the one in the morning about the high priest, and the one in the afternoon that has to do with the arayot, with the forbidden relations. So He'era, Rashi He'era. And he says Gila. So he's saying this word He'era also has to do with the idea of revealing, right? Exposing. That's a good word. Vechen kol ashon erva. He says, and so any expression with this term erva, gilui, it's got to do with exposure. And I remember a class that I had back in rabbinical school with Professor Hanan Brichter. It was one of the most memorable classes I ever took, which was on these early chapters of Genesis, where he points out that initially Adam and Eve were nude, and later on, after they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they became naked. And the idea of nude simply means without clothing, right? Without adornment, whereas naked has to do with the idea of exposure. So here we are with this particular word, right? The havav, right? You say the letter vav. Yoredet bateva, okay? It comes down into the letter because, right, the root is ali ayin resh hey, right? This is the root, right? So what about this vav? This is the vav he's talking about, right? It goes into the word l'shem davar in order to make it a noun, right? So we take the word ara, which means to expose, and erva is the noun from that verb. Kamo, here we go. Za'ava, right? Migzerat, right? From this has to do with moving, right? Right? From the root of, in the book of Esther, chapter 5, velo kam velo za. He did not get up and he didn't move. V'chein achava, right? There's this vav here, which means brotherliness, fraternity. Migzerat ach, from the word ach, brother. And of course, ach is not a verb, it's a noun, but it has to do possibly with the type of noun, achava, right? Fraternity from brother. So it has something to do with the nature of this noun. Ha'ara zo, right? And this exposure, I guess we'd have to say, right? Zo nechlaku ba rabotenu. Our rabbis disagreed. They had a machloket. They had a dispute as to what we were talking about. And this is in the tractate Yevamot, page 55. Yeshom, there are those who say, Zo nishikat shamash, right? Or could be shemesh here, right? But I think here it's talking about shamash, right? It has to do with this is the penis, right? They're referring to that, okay? And it means just touching the female organ, right? There are those who say that's what this is talking about. Veyeshomrim, but those who are saying zo hachnasat atara. This is the entry. This is the putting in of the corona, that part of the male organ. So, this is part of taking this stuff very seriously. And even though this isn't the course of common conversation, but it is, you might say, similar to medical analysis. This is taking a subject carefully and trying to understand what it is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your might. And so these details are important and they become worthy of discussion and understanding. So this is a nice example of where, in Jewish law, it deals with every element of human experience. not just the stuff that's sunshine and the loveliness, right? It also some very private stuff. So, ve'ervat achot imcha, the nakedness of your mother's sister, ve'achot, in other words, both your maternal aunt and your paternal aunt, achot avicha, lo tegale, you shall not expose. Ki et she'ero he'era. So this is basically it's saying they are part of him himself, right? They are it's incestuous. That's what they say, right? He has revealed, right? He has exposed. Avonam isu, they shall bear their guilt. Let's see if there's any, yeah. Ervat achot imcha, right? And the nakedness of the sister of your mother. Okay, so let's take a look here. So I think this is the Shina or Shana Hakatuv. The scripture makes a distinction, but Azharatam regarding the prohibition, Lomar to say, She whose har alehen, that they are forbidden, right, regarding them, Bain al achot, whether it's through the mother, achot aviv, that is, sorry, whether it's the sister of his father, ve'imo, sorry, let's see. I want to make sure I'm reading this right. Bain al achot aviv, ve'imo min ha'av, right? Whether it is the sister of his father and his mother from the father. So I'm trying to think of this.
So
Go
here
ahead,
it
Laura.
says,
Go ahead, please.
whether she be his father's
Hmm.
or his mother's paternal sister or maternal sister.
Hmm.
That's what it says here.
Ah. Okay. So in other words, going up the generation. No, clearly that's thank you, Lauren. I just for some reason the syntax was eluding me.
Very twisted.
Yeah, it really is. Right. Hmm. Right. You're right. So that's the point is it's going up a generation. Whether it's the sister of his father, right? I think in ve'imo min ha'av. Okay. Or his mother from his father. Bein al achiotehen, whether it's regarding their sister, min ha'em, from the mother. Sorry. Aval ervat eshet achi aviv. But with regard to the nakedness, right, or the whatever, the okay, never mind. The That's the wife of his father's brother, lo huzhar. It is not, there's no prohibition, right? By the way, this is what makes Tractate Yevamot so difficult. It's considered one of the three difficult tractates, okay? Eruvin, Nida, and Yevamot, okay, are three of the most difficult tractates in the Talmud. And this has to do with trying to figure out these family relationships, okay? So let's see if we can do this. We're talking about the father's brother's wife. Okay. So, okay, that's thinking about that. So it's an aunt through marriage, right? It's not a blood relation, right? Lo huzar, that is not forbidden. Ella al eshet achi aviv min ha'av. Wow, boy. But regarding the wife of his father's brother from the father. Mhm. So, in other words, if it's his mother's brother's sister, this is correct me if I'm wrong, okay?
So, yeah,
That's
this
not forbidden.
this
That's
this
not
is
forbidden.
going in a different direction. It says regarding the nakedness of his father's brother's wife,
Yes,
he is prohibited only when his father and uncle share the same father.
got it. Hmm. Okay, okay, so let's see if, thank you, Lauren. That's really helpful. Right. Okay. Right. Hmm. So if they don't share the same father, then he's not prohibited from the brother's wife. But they do share the same father, then they are. Wow. Boy, that's cutting it close. All right. Thank you. Going on. All right. The ish asher yishkav et dodato. So look at this. This simply says, very straightforward, right? A man who lies with his aunt. Well, it sounds like we were talking about that, right? Ervat dodo gila. He has revealed the nakedness of his aunt. Chatam yis'u. They shall bear their sin.
Says he has revealed the nakedness of his uncle.
Oh, dodo. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Thanks, Lauren. I'm not being overly careful today. Forgive me. Right. Thank you. Chet am yisa'u, they shall bear their guilt. Aririm yamutu. I believe this means they will die childless. Do you have anything different there?
The
But I
same.
think that's pretty sure what that was. Okay, let's take a look at this. Okay. Asher yishkav et dodato, right? Who lies with his aunt. And again, look at this. Yevamot, right? Hamikra hazeh, this scriptural verse, ba lilamed, it comes to teach al karet regarding the punishment of karet, right? That's that divine punishment. It's not a human punishment. And what it means, amur lamala, which is mentioned above, shehu be'onesh halichat ariri, that what that actually means is dying childless. That's what that means. That's one understanding of karet. So he's saying that's why this verse comes, is to help us understand what that punishment actually involves. Okay. Aririm. So let's say he says ketargumo as it's translated, right? And here we go. Let's see what it says. Bala Vlad Yimutun. They will die without child. So that so he's saying it's as Onkelos interprets it, right? Belo Vlad, that's the words that Onkelos uses, that the drum. Vedomelo, and it's similar to Genesis chapter 15, Va'ani holech ariri, and I am going ariri, so childless. Yesh lo banim, if he has children, this is really very hard stuff, right? If he has sons, kovran, he will bury them. Ein lo banim, however, if he doesn't have any sons, met below banim, he dies without sons. Lechach shana bishnei mikraot. And for this reason, he's taught this, I believe he's saying he's taught this law using two verses. Elu aririm yamutu aririm yu. So, okay, elu. So, I think he's saying here I think I'm trying to think. Yes, yes. Right. Mikraot elu. The elu goes with the mikraot, right? B'shnei mikraot elu. These two verses. Aririm yamutu. It says they will die aririm. And then it says aririm yiyu. They will be aririm. And these two expressions, aririm yamutu means they die without a child. And aririm yiyu means they will lose their child or children. So,
So when you say sons,
yes,
like if they commit the sin while they have
right,
sons or while they don't,
right.
do you mean children, or does it only the daughters don't matter? If they commit the
Right,
sin while they have the daughter, they don't have to bury
right,
her?
right. No, I'm glad you asked. So if we look at Onkelos, he says Vlad, which means child. So it is the gender of the child does not matter. I was translating Banim literally as sons, but I think this is a wonderful example. If you'll forgive me for using the word wonderful in such an example, but it's a really good example how Banim doesn't always just mean males. it can sometimes include females. And I guess I don't know if context is helpful, but here clearly Onkelos, and I imagine he is representing the tradition as well, understands it as meaning children. Okay, and I think that's okay. So here we go. Let's keep going. See what this is, right? Arim yamutu. That is to say, they will die without children. Im imihiyulo b'sha'at avera, right? If he has them at the time when he commits this transgression, lo yulo kesheyamut, he will not have them when he dies. Lefi shekovran b'chayav, right? So he's explaining this arim yamutu, right? That expression in the scripture. Uh, so because he buries them while he's alive. The expression aririm yiyu, they will be aririm. She'im lo ein lo b'sha'at avera. That is to say, that if he didn't have children at the time when he committed this transgression, yeh kol yamav, it's going to be that way all his days, k'moshe shav, just as he is now. This is just one of those times when, in order to be honest, I have to share what it's saying and how we have to process these things is not easy. This is definitely, one of the more challenging passages to have to deal with. And I'm pretty certain that some of the understanding and perhaps the basic level of understanding is the firm belief that God is ultimately the creator and that our lives, and this is a way of expressing and applying the notion that our lives are truly in the hands of the divine, and that us and our ability to react to that, even when it involves painful elements, is part of that faith. That faith isn't just, as I said, it's not just sugar daddy in the sky, that it involves life's painful moments as well. And again, it's circumstantial, right? I'm clearly, I know a good number of people who have chosen or were not able to have children, and I will not apply this particular passage to their case. It's just unfair and inappropriate. And again, I try to put myself in the position of people in that situation and say, this is a choice, and this is talking about specific cases, and it isn't necessarily connected. The fact that they may not have children isn't necessarily connected to anything going on here. And I feel sensitive about it, and it's very difficult to teach these particular passages. And I welcome any comments, believe me. So it's very important for me, to be fair about how I teach these particular passages. Let's go on. Ve'ish asher yikach et eshet achiv nidahi. Okay. So it says a man who takes the wife of his brother, right? This is, as Harlan was saying the other time, this is sort of the opposite case of the levirate marriage. But this is a case where he is just, again, it's incest, right? Takes the wife of his brother, nidahi. I believe the word nida here means, has to do with basically to be separated, something about, being set aside, something like that, that she is off limits, off limits. Ervat achiv gila, he has revealed again, he's exposed the nakedness of his brother. Aririm yiyu, and there we go. See, it says Aririm yamutu, and there it says Aririm yiyu. Lauren, I'm appealing to whatever translation you have, if you feel that it has something
But
to
for
emphasize.
Nida, it says it's a repulsive act.
Interesting. I don't honestly. Okay, so here's the Aramaic word here that's using mirachakahi, and I I could be wrong, but my sense is that maybe repulsive is the good translation. These words are not common necessarily in that way, but I think, from the word rachok, distance, right? And that's why I said off limits because of the Aramaic translation here. And I think that I mean, for example, the word nidui has something to do with excommunication. So I'm sorry because I think the word repulsive has a very different kind of connotation. And again,
Doesn't nida refer to menstruation?
yes, that is, and that's because the woman was separated off limits from her husband.
Or because she was repulsive
Well,
at that
I'm
time?
not going there. I
At
am.
that at that time.
Yeah, well,
But I
that.
mean, Chabad's going there, and he
Maybe.
does,
Yeah.
and they do in the Rashi too.
Okay. Well, let's see. Okay.
I've heard it
Yeah, that's the word is
said.
here. Yeah. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I've heard it said as a time out from ritual obligation.
Right. Yeah, but the word nida doesn't, I think it isn't necessarily just to do with ritual. I will tell you I see the word, here's the word ma'usa, right? And ma'us is repulsive, I'm sorry to say. Okay. So he'd say, but it's interesting. Okay. It's talking about hashchiva hazot. It's so interesting. Rashi is not talking about the woman. He's talking about the act, that the act of a man having intimate relations when a woman is menstruating, okay, this is what he says, right? Menudahi. It is again something. Again, I'm going to try and say it's something that's off limits, and it's repulsive. So it's not suggesting that the woman is repulsive. It's talking about the act itself of a man, having relations with a woman who's in menstruation. And I think there's maybe the distinction is too subtle. I don't think so, but of course, it's just I think it's interesting that that is the way Rashi puts it, and he's not talking about the woman, right? He's talking about Shriva. He's talking about this intimacy. Okay. And let's see what else. Let's go on with one. I know we're going a little long, but I really would like to. I don't want to end with that. So here we go. Ushmartem et kol chukotai, and you shall guard all my chukim, right? And we know that a chuk means an arbitrary rule, right? You shall guard all my rules. Ve'et kol mishpatai, mishpatai, these would be ordinances. A mishpat is like it has to do, of course, with the word justice, etc. So the distinction between a chok would be an example of keeping kosher, right? Whereas a mishpat would be an example of thou shalt not steal. So,
So
but both of them, yes,
we're not
please.
going to do the Rashi for the previous one.
Oh, did I not? I
Did
thought
not.
I did. I thought I did. Yeah, here it is. This is the Rashi I've got. He says, Hashkiva hazot medudahi. Right?
Okay, I
Yeah,
have more than that.
really, that's all I've got. Well, let me see if I missed out a little bit of it. You are right. You are right. There we go. Right. Okay. Verabot, thank you, Lauren. I didn't catch that. Verabotenu darshu. And our rabbis interpreted this verse. Le'esor ha'ara. Okay, ba. So ha'ara is just the very beginnings of intercourse. The very beginnings. Kenida sheha'ara meforeshet ba. Like the nida, right? And again, the Hebrew is giving me some challenges here, right? Meforeshet ba et makora hera. So let me see what this is saying. Okay. Okay. So le'asor hara ba kenida. Hmm. To forbid again, hara is just the very beginnings of just touching, right? Kenida sheha.
Here it says
Yeah.
exposure that it says ha'arava. I mean ha'ar.
Ah,
Ha'ara'ah, exposure.
right.
So, like maybe undressing?
No, it honestly, I think I don't believe that's all it means. Okay, I think it really does mean touching.
Okay.
I mean, I can look it up in Jastro, but that's my understanding as I've studied it in the past.
And
Okay.
it says the state of
Yes.
ha'ara'ah
Yes.
with this woman is forbidden just as it is with a menstruant, a nidah. And then regarding whom exposure is specified, he is
Right.
uncovered for
Right.
nakedness.
Right. That says ha'ara. The exposure is, yeah. I think it's again said, just the slightest contact, I believe, is what it's talking about.
Hmm.
Okay. And there it says, this is just as it goes, right? Et mekorah he has revealed it. Let me look back here. So sorry. Let's see. Uh, oh, okay. All right. So did I leave? I must have left off. Hmm. Yeah. I'm sorry. I must have skipped where did I skip it? Okay. I skipped all these verses, right? Did I not? Right? So
I don't think you
no, I
skipped
didn't. I didn't
verses.
skip those. I'm trying to think. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, because the Nida situation, yeah, the Nida situation is mentioned up here, and that's the case of a menstruating woman, right? And then these others involve consanguineous relationships, right? Incest. And so Rashi's making the point here in this Rashi that the reason why the Torah uses the word nida here when she isn't a menstruant here. This is not talking about menstruation, but it's using that word to indicate that any kind of exposure, right, in that level of intimacy is forbidden. That's the point that Rashi's making here. That's why the term nida is because she's not actually menstruating, right? So, but that's what he's saying, right? Let's see. Okay, yeah. So that's why the rabbis interpreted this word nida the way they did here. Okay, let's go on. Let's see if I can do this now. So thanks, Lauren. Yishmartem et kol chukotai, you shall guard all my chukim, right? Ve'et kol mishpatai, and all my ordinances, va'asitem otam, and you shall perform them. You shall do them. Look at this. Ve'lo taki etchem haaretz, so that the land not spew you out. And the word lahaki means to vomit, literally. Asher ani mevi etchem shama, where I am bringing you there, lashevet ba, in order to settle there, right? To dwell there. So and we'll stop here. This is the place to stop. But the point is this that our title to the land of Israel, which I think this is actually, profound, that the title to the land of Israel has to do with our behavior and our ethical behavior, and of course, the sense in recognizing that the land isn't ours, right? We are, no matter what, sojourners, to use that expression. But that's because we also look at our lives as a sojourn because it's not permanent. But there is a way in which we can make sure, as brief as that sojourn is, that it's of the highest value and that we're making the best use of this opportunity that we have to live. And likewise, the land of Israel, in it being such a sacred place, it's significant to behave in a way that is deeply, deeply respectful, etc. And I think that is the point. So I'll leave it here for today. I will stop the share. and I will stop the recording.